much criminal law. Americans could easily commit 3 felonies a day without knowing it.
I've never sat on this.
And it's
Trying to be good.
Even not in there. We're being daring today.
How do you?
So good morning, and welcome to the Mindfulness Tree Meditation Community. And I see you're sitting where you're not having to go way down into the couch. It's so fun to listen to the conversations that happen before I ring the bell, because that just says so much about this group being a comfortable group for folks. I hope it is. So welcome to everyone. And we're going to begin today, before our meditation, with the 5 mindfulness trainings, because this is the first of the month, and we go through these. And so I'm going to ask you to listen to them. I'm going to pass the book around too, so whoever doesn't want to read, you just pass it on to the next person. But to listen in particular to the trainings, because these are meant to be guidelines for living in community. And if there's anything that strikes you as like, oh, that really resonates with me, or, oh, I really need to work on that, or something like that, just keep it in mind, because I'm going to bring that up in the meditation that follows. So, I'm going to on the page. And so I'm going to start it this way. If you don't want to read, pass it on. So I'll read the first paragraph. The 5 mindfulness trainings are guidelines for how to live our daily lives in a way that nourishes happiness and transforms ill-being. The 5 mindfulness trainings are also the kind of thinking and acting that have the power to heal. You can recite them daily or monthly, alone or with a group, to renew your intentions and as an inspiration to practice. As this goes around the room, as you read the first line that says what it's about, I'll invite the bell. So
Just read the next paragraph.
yeah, it starts with this. So as you read the title, I'll invite the bell.
The first mindfulness training, reverence for life. Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I am committed to cultivating the insight of interbeing, compassion, and learning ways to protect the lives of people, animals, plants, and minerals. I am determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to support any act of killing in the world, in my thinking or in my way of life. Seeing that harmful actions arise from anger, fear, greed, and intolerance, which in turn come from dualistic and discriminative thinking, I will cultivate openness, non-discrimination, and non-attachment to views in order to transform violence, fanaticism, and dogmatism in myself and in the world.
Second mindfulness training, true happiness. Aware of the suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, stealing, and oppression, I am committed to practicing generosity in my thinking, speaking, and acting. I am determined not to steal and not to possess anything that should belong to others, and I will share my time, energy, and material resources with those who are in need. I will practice looking deeply to see that the happiness and suffering of others are not separate from my own happiness and suffering. That true happiness is not possible without understanding and compassion, and that running after wealth, fame, power, and sensual pleasures can bring much suffering and despair. I am aware that happiness depends on my mental attitude and not on external conditions. That I can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that I already have more than enough conditions to be happy. I am committed to practicing right livelihood so that I can help reduce the suffering of living beings on Earth and reverse the process of global warming.
Third mindfulness training, true love. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I am committed to cultivating responsibility and learning ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. Knowing that sexual desire is not love and that sexual activity motivated by craving always harms myself as well as others, I am determined not to engage in sexual relationships without true love and in a deep, long-term commitment made known to my family and friends. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. Seeing that body and mind are one, I'm committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of my sexual energy and cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness, which are the four basic elements of true love, for the greater happiness and the greater happiness of others. Practicing true love, we know that we will continue beautifully into the future.
The fourth mindfulness training, loving speech and deep listening. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I'm committed to cultivating loving speech and compassionate listening in order to relieve suffering and to promote reconciliation and peace in myself and among other people, ethnic and religious groups, and nations. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I'm committed to speaking truthfully, using words that inspire confidence, joy, and hope. When anger is manifesting in me, I'm determined not to speak. We'll practice mindful breathing and walking in order to recognize and to look deeply into my anger. I know that the roots of anger can be found in my wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of the suffering in myself and in the other person. I will speak and listen in a way that can help myself and the other person to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. I'm determined not to spread news that I do not know to be certain, and not to utter words that can cause division or discord. I will practice right diligence to nourish my capacity for understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, and gradually transform anger, violence, and fear that lie deep in my consciousness.
The fifth mindfulness training, nourishment and healing. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I am committed to cultivating good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will practice looking deeply into how I consume four kinds of nutriments, namely edible foods, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness. I am determined not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products that contain toxins, such as certain websites, electronic games, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. I will practice coming back to the present moment to be in touch with the refreshing, healing, and nourishing elements in me and around me, not letting regrets and sorrow drag me back into the past, nor letting anxieties, fear, or craving pull me out of the present moment. I am determined not to try to cover up loneliness, anxiety, or other suffering by losing myself in consumption. I will contemplate interbeing and consume in a way that preserves peace, joy, and well-being in my body and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family, my society, and the earth.
Listen, listen. The sound of the bell calls me back to my true home. And so we arrive in the present moment. No other moment is accessible to us except now. We settle our body and our mind. And we welcome ourselves to our true home, to our true nature, which is goodness. And so I invite you to just become aware of what is present for you, whether it's thoughts, feelings, sensations. And I invite you to engage all 6 senses that are available to us. And so, for the sense of hearing, just take a moment and listen to what sounds might be apparent to you in the room, outside the room. And notice how they arise and pass away. And now engaging the sense of smell. Notice if there are any perceivable smells within this room or not. Just think about how you react when there is a smell that you can label as pleasant or unpleasant, and how we tend to react to that. And now engaging the sense of sight. You can open your eyes gently and perhaps notice an object in the room without creating a story about it, just noticing it with that sense. Its color, its shape, where it's located. And now allowing the eyes to close notice the sense of touch. Soles of our feet, perhaps the feeling of our shoes, our socks. Where our body is making contact with our chair or our seat. Perhaps touching a piece of clothing and noticing, is it rough? Is it smooth? And now the sense of taste. Perhaps the memory of a cup of tea or coffee this morning, or breakfast. And just notice how the mouth even responds to the suggestion. Is there more saliva? Just thinking about food. And finally, a sense of consciousness that allows us to be present, to be aware of what is arising. And again, just noticing if there are feelings, thoughts, or sensation. And then noticing that the body is breathing, knowing that you are breathing in, knowing that you are breathing out. And allow the breath to help whatever is arising to settle, to greet it, to allow what's ever arising to have a place of honor during this time. And so we can rest in silence and stillness. Yet keeping a gentle focus on the breath. And now, using the mind, I invite you to reflect on the 5 mindfulness trainings that we heard earlier. These guidelines, not rules, but guidelines for oneself and for living in community. Perhaps something stood out to you today that you'd like to contemplate and reflect upon, and maybe address for your own life. Reverence for life, true happiness, true love, loving speech and deep listening, nourishment and healing. These 5 mindfulness trainings are based on the 5 lay precepts that are part of Buddhism. To refrain from taking life, to refrain from taking what is not given, to refrain from sexual misconduct, to refrain from false speech, to refrain from intoxicants. And I invite you to bring to mind whatever arose for you. And asking the question, how will you practice for the sake of self and community? Invite that aspect of the trainings in and allow it to sit down without judgment, but to care for it, to contemplate it, and perhaps to make a resolve for yourself. And then let it go. It could be in the form of an aspiration that you can formulate and use during walking meditation or throughout your day. I will use mindful speech. I will listen deeply. I will be mindful of what I consume, whatever is appropriate for you. So in closing, I'm going to share with you a poem by Rumi that many of us know. It's entitled The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. It may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from the beyond. So thank you for your practice, for your attention, for being here, both online and in person. And so now we move with a seamless continuity of practice to our walking meditation. And use whatever you feel might be helpful for you for the walking, whether it be maybe a resolve that you made from hearing the mindfulness trainings, or maybe even a rejoicing that you worked on something from the mindfulness trainings that sort of say, good on me, for the sake of the community. So, or to use whatever method or technique that you'd like to do. So with that, we go to the social hall and to the sanctuary.